you this week's weekly dose of higher wisdom. I'm Dr. Shelley.
And I'm Kumar, and I hope you guys had a good holidays, season's greetings. We don't really celebrate Christmas or New Year's, but wish you the best.
Happy, truly, holy days. Today, we are going to be diving deep into a sacred, candid conversation about journeying with plant medicine. And are you journeying from your mind, your body, or your what, my love?
I don't know.
Ego, the thing that we don't really want to look at, because this is a triggering conversation. So we have a lot of disclaimers that we're going to share up front. First and foremost, we speak our truth.
It's not the truth.
It's not the truth. It's our truth.
We don't know what the truth is. We'll be the first to tell you that.
And we share our truth based on our experiences, based on what we have felt.
But it's also our truth is also based on what we're living. And if your truth isn't that, this is something that you and I always talk about, is that people get so tied up into, that's not the only way. We get it. It's not the only way. The way we measure ourselves is how we look at our life. Is this working for us? Then I guess it's our way.
Absolutely. And as we always say, how do we know what our truth is? Again, this comes back to mind, body, or ego. This is a very deep conversation that we're going to be diving into today.
And again, a trigger warning, folks. When we say ego, I know that there's a lot of things that people automatically associate when you hear the word ego. The first word that comes to mind is narcissism.
It's that egoic pride. It's conceited. It's full of yourself.
When we say ego, we are talking about the trauma self.
Well, and I'm going to explain. I'm going to go down that portal and explain what the ego really is here in a little bit. So if the word ego is triggering you, just hang on for a second more. The other trigger disclaimer that we have is you are going to get triggered during this conversation.
What we share is based on our observation. We are not saying that we know more than anybody else. And if you view us as egotistical or who the hell do they think they are, please understand that is not our intent. We just simply share what we observe in our experience.
Because there's a big difference between judgment and observation. Judgment is rooted in you judging yourself. So if you feel that we are judging you for your past experience with plant medicine, for, let's say, journeying from your ego, but not your body or mind, we're not judging you. And how do you know for sure that we're not judging you? Because we've been there, done that. And that is how, through our experience, we kind of climbed out of that cesspool and experiencing something different. We can observe that, okay, that is what is occurring simply because there's no sacred rites of passages. Everything comes back to no rites of passages. We don't know any better.
Well, whether that's our spirituality, our sexuality, our interaction with plant medicine, our interaction with our higher consciousness. I don't know about you guys, but I didn't get any rites of passage. What was my rites of passage?
Right, I didn't either. Hence why we end up doing sex the way we do it. So
that could be a whole different conversation.
Well, again, I want to mirror that real quick. So when we look at how society does sex, are you going to be triggered if we say that how society does sex is distorted, it's perverted, it's unconscious, it's wham, bam, thank you, ma'am?
We're not saying that sex is perverted. We're just saying the way that it's being done from an unconscious space of just chasing the dopamine hit.
But we have to look at, we have fallen from divinity. And there's 3 stages of awakening that we all will go through since we have fallen from divinity. When we start to wake up, we are in our dormant phase. We're like waking up and wiping the sleep out of our eyes. We haven't been able to see. There were no rites of passages. We're just on automatic pilot mode doing sex the way we see sex being done. The way we learned in movies or porn or television shows or romance novels. Nobody taught us. So on your journey of awakening, you go from dormant to distorted. There's still things that you have to heal and clear out and come to awareness of. Doesn't mean you're at the divine sacred level yet, but you're in that distorted phase still. And we see this a lot, for example, and not to get off topic, but there's a mirroring here. So we see that with sexuality. People are starting to, wait, there's power here in my sexuality, but they're distorting their use of power because there's no sacred rites of passages.
Well, it's no different than Tantra, right? Everybody,
The Western version.
The concept of Tantra, the sexual portion of Tantra, again, it is my culture, so I can talk about it. The sexual portion of a tantric practice is a sliver, one tiny sliver of what Tantra really means, or what the tantric practice really is.
Well, the West takes it.
It's all about sexuality and all
about lasting longer and
staring into each other's eyes and all these other wonderful things. But again, another topic for another day.
So if you don't get triggered around having to look at how you do sexuality and how it is strayed so far from sacredness, from divinity, the question will always bring you back to whether it's sexuality or spirituality. Is this your trauma self or ego or higher self? So,
and how do you know the difference?
And we're going to go there. So with sexuality, real quick, the way you do sex, is it the most sacred version of sex that you can possibly imagine or dream of? Because here's the thing. You don't know what you don't know. You don't know what is truly possible if you've never experienced it. So now coming into spirituality, like I said, this is the trigger disclaimer. If you feel that we're judging you, we're not. Everyone has to start in the dormant phase of awakening when they meet plant medicine, just like the dormant phase of sexuality. There is a phase of distortedness during that phase of awakening until you reach the divine level. And this has been our journey of being a chiropractor, burnout, seeing people revert. That's been my story. And I have not wanted to go down that path and waste more time, money, or energy doing something that isn't going to work for me. Because I had a lot of experience doing stuff that it didn't really work for me. And what I mean by that is it didn't guide me to the more that I knew was possible,
Absolutely.
that I was looking for. So, trigger disclaimer. If you feel like we're judging you, we're not.
We don't know you, so why would we judge you?
Why would we judge you? We are here to open your eyes, to open your mind, to open your heart to a different possibility that you may not even know exists. Why? No rites of passages.
No education.
No education, no guidance. And that's where we're going to begin with this whole plant medicine world.
It's literally, which is a good place to kick it off. It's something that we always say. It's the blind leading the blind. So the few people out there who may be talking about higher consciousness or plant medicine or serving plant medicine or whatever have you, again, whatever the choices that they have made, have they really gotten their rites of passage?
Who's giving rites of passages, though? That's the thing. So let's share our experience with plant medicine. And I know that I've hinted at certain things before, but our first experience with Bufo, we received no instructions.
Oh, well, let's go back further than that.
Okay.
So if we're going to talk about plant medicine, what really wrote the book? Cannabis, right?
Cannabis.
I grew up in the Caribbean. So cannabis was the most normal thing growing up in the Caribbean. My brother was a cannabis dealer.
Grower.
I know he had a couple of plants. I know he smoked. And I know for a fact that, again, it was still illegal, according to whom. How do you make a plant illegal? That's a whole different conversation. But I grew up with it as being normal. And being raised in a Hindu home, for our Shiva puja and our Kali puja, we had to burn a big joint as incense on the altar that was built for that prayers. So we knew, but I didn't know at the level that I know today, we knew that the plant held a certain amount of sacredness in it. And growing up as a kid, thankfully, I didn't really imbibe. It was floating around me. My few times with this plant medicine was if I was at a party or I'm hanging out with some friends and somebody has a joint that's passing it around and go, you want to toke of this? And I take 2 puffs, never really did anything for me, maybe coughed and went about my way. And that was my first experience with the plant, period, not in a medicinal way.
Absolutely. And going back to my first experience with cannabis.
That would be on me.
Well, yeah, consuming cannabis with you. But my first few experiences of seeing cannabis was a high school party. Everybody was just high in a garage and it just felt icky. It was like, get me out of here. I want to go home. This just doesn't feel good.
Well, it was
And
just
then-
a matter of laughing your ass off about things that seems funny, getting hungry, trying to hook up, because cannabis does wake up your Shakti energy. So that's where it was.
Absolutely. And that's the munchies thing. That's a whole nother conversation, because if we look at that, munchies do what? They suppress your emotions. You're numbing your emotions by eating, filling the void created by trauma with food. Whole nother conversation.
So moving to Bufo, which was our first psychedelic, our first powerful psychedelic. And again,
no rite of passage.
none. We knew
No
nothing about it.
instructions.
Part of that was our fault because we knew nothing about it.
But it wasn't our fault, because if I would have known anything about it, I probably wouldn't have surrendered to the medicine and experienced the massive rebirth that I did, that then rebirthed my relationship with cannabis, that birthed somatophobia.
But like you said, while we're grateful for the person who served us, I went first a week before my wife and on a beach, and it was light and incense, have a sound bowl, and just some minor instructions of how to inhale the medicine. And that was the extent of any directions or any instructions.
That's why I showed up a week later with patients scheduled in the afternoon, because I watched his and went, oh, well, okay, this is nothing.
Yeah.
I don't know what this is.
Because I make everything look easy.
It's so easy. I'm like, I'll be able to go to my ceremony in the morning and then go see my patients in the afternoon.
Shit, he went for a swim after. He's good. I got this.
Little did I know when I came out and I'm covered in sand. Oh yeah, babe, can you let Lei Sue know to cancel all of my patients? What the fuck was I thinking? But I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know my journey would look different than your journey, because there was nothing, no rite of passage, no instructions, no guidance, no post-care, no post-integration. Just, okay, thanks for showing up. We'll be in touch.
And again, so let's stop there before we go any further. Again, very grateful for the brother who served us and introduced us to this medicine. However, it was the opening from the very first time to see that there is a big difference between a medicine person, or for want of a better name, a shaman, and just somebody who serves medicine.
Mm-hmm.
Just like there's a big difference between a chemist and a bartender.
Mm-hmm.
So again, just our observation, the world, the medicine world, as far as we observe, is filled with bartenders.
Again, no judgment. This is our observation. And from what we have remembered, in past times, our ancestors received rites of passages before ever sitting with any medicine.
Starting with cannabis.
Starting with cannabis, there was a rite of passage. Before you ever imbibe cannabis, here is literally the manual on cannabis, because you gave me the best analogy ever. Cannabis is like having the power of a Ferrari in your hands, but never having attended driving school.
And can't get it out of first gear.
Or get it out of first gear, but then you fucking wreck it down the road.
Or drive it just to the convenience store and come back. Because it truly is. If you understand the power of cannabis and what you can do with this plant, which is a reason that it's, if you go back and we did in our researching for the book, and we've mentioned this before, the Vedas wrote about this plant as one of the 5 most sacred plants on the planet. it was only reserved, the only people who can imbibe cannabis was the rishis.
Legally.
And it's still
in
legal
India.
today, is the rishis, who are holy men, the gurus, the sadhus, and the yogis. They were the only ones, only to be imbibed, not to check out, not for good laughs, not to get laid, not to get the munchies, not to call it healing, not to sleep better, not to dull their pain, but to actually raise their consciousness and connect the mind and the body.
Divine union. Hence why, if you have read Somatophobia, you will see that I've nicknamed cannabis the divine union plant, because that is what she guides us home to. Divine union within us, mind and body connected.
And bringing back a little bit of Hinduism into the conversation, not necessarily Hinduism, but Sanatan Dharma, which is where we got a lot of the information, coupled with modern science research. Cannabis represents Shiva, the Hindu god, which is within Shiva itself is the representation of divine union, half masculine, half feminine, Shiva, Shakti.
Mind, body. And that's where in my book, I mirror a lot of the Hindu Vedic stories, because just as the story of Santa Claus and the story of Jesus has been logically interpreted, even today in Hindu prayers and pujas, growing up Hindu, you got to see it.
Yeah.
They literally interpret the Vedas from that very masculine logical space, and they are worshiping an external god and goddess, forgetting that all of these stories, the feminine interpretation, is to bring them back to within you. Shiva is a representation of you when you are in a state of divine union.
Embodied.
Higher self embodied. And what does Shiva represent, my love? What did he birth?
Yoga. In case none of you ever know, but the concept of yoga, as a matter of fact, if you go to CERN, now they are even painting it to be something evil, but even if you go to CERN, an international corporation like CERN, forget the fact whether it's for good or bad, or that's a whole different conversation, but even if you go to something scientific like CERN, trying to break quantum particles, what do they have standing that's 12 feet tall in front of the entrance? Shiva. In what particular position? Not sitting in meditation as he's often viewed,
dancing,
but in his ecstatic dance. And how did he get to his ecstatic dance? Well, a whole paragraph of that is written in the book.
Cannabis. Because cannabis quiets the ego. And when you are guided or know how to guide yourself into your body with your mind and body unite, ego is offline. And that is Shiva's cosmic dance, dancing free all those stuck energies in the fascia, clearing out those pathways of consciousness, and literally dancing his way to his higher consciousness.
Through the practice of yoga and breathwork.
And movement and sounding and all the other Shakti activators that I shared in Somatophobia. So if we come back and we look at plant medicine journeys now, and this question of, do you know from where you are journeying when you consume plant medicine? Are you journeying from your mind, from your body, or from your ego?
Okay, so let's differentiate, just to be sure. Again, remember, for those of you who didn't join us before, when we say ego, we do not mean the narcissistic, I am better than everybody else, oh, look at me, ego.
Well, this is a good time for me to explain the ego. So let's dive down this concept of ego, because it's such a big trigger. E-G-O. What does it stand for?
Edging
God out, or edging goddess out.
God, not
your higher self.
God.
Ego literally disconnects you from your inner God and goddess. So your higher self is external from you, not connected. And that's what everybody's looking for. We're all looking for something. What are we looking for? Our higher self, connection to our inner God and goddess. So what really is the ego? Well, the ego was designed to serve and protect you. Kind of like the police force.
So it was a good thing when it was created.
Started as a good thing. Law and order. It was designed to serve and
Moral
protect
compass.
you. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. However, trauma after trauma after trauma, that ego gets bigger and bigger and bigger.
So it goes into full-blown protection mode.
Well, and why?
Because it needs to protect the soul at all costs.
Well, and that's where at every moment of trauma, the soul flees from the scene of the impact of the trauma, which the impact of trauma is felt in the body. So if your soul flees from the scene of impact of trauma in your body, who's controlling that part of your body now?
That would be the bodyguards.
Who are the bodyguards?
The code name for them is EGO.
And what that looks like is the ego goes, okay, higher self has fleed the scene, there's trauma. Meanwhile, your mind is receiving messages of danger, danger, danger flowing through your nervous system. Your mind is like the police officer writing the story. Okay, so what happened? Case file number, what happened? This person said XYZ, this person abused you, blah, blah, blah.
So you're writing the story in the mind.
And then it gets stored away in one of the filing cabinets of the subconscious mind, which are memories that are just below your conscious level. They're not there all the time, but if you want to go looking for them, all you got to do is push in a button on that filing cabinet, pull it out, and there's the file. Conscious mind has no button. Drawer pulls in and out, you can just pull out a file. Unconscious mind, that baby has a padlock on it. Those memories, those are really deep, hence they're unconscious.
And you have to understand, I start laughing as soon as she starts talking about the file system and all of that, because I have painted a picture for my wife that in my mind, I have a group of minions who are running the show up here. And I run my show like a militant. I am a tyrant in that place because when I call for a file and whoever's in charge that day can't bring forth the file, somebody's going to get shot and pissed on. I'm just saying.
I have watched that process. And the minions, they always pull through. They're like, oh shit, we better fucking wake up and go get that file for him. We're going to literally get fired.
So going back before we get distracted.
So coming back to the story of trauma, the impact of pain is felt in your body. The story of the trauma is stored in your mind.
Now that is true for both physical pain and emotional pain.
And spiritual pain and energetic pain and sexual pain and mental pain, any trauma stored in the body as pain, that void space where the higher self fled from, it's a void. So when we have addictions, vices, what are we doing?
Trying to fill that void.
With something external. But the only thing that can fill that void is our inner god and goddess.
And I can tell you, I did it for years. My filler for void was sex.
Mine was the gym.
I did that too.
Mine was work. Mine was wine there for a little bit.
But we're always trying to fill that void.
Because we're looking for something to fill the void. We know we're lacking something, but what? So then, that's how trauma occurs. Mind has the story, body has the pain. So where does ego fit in? So without connection to your higher self, let's say you experience that trauma in your left hip. Higher self is no longer connected to your left hip. There's a void space there. So who's in control over that part of your body? And I always give the analogy that your body is like holy land. If the owner of that holy land flees from the land, the ego, the colonizer, is going to come in and go, I want to control that land. I want power over that land.
Or we'll just go in like we're seeing that's happening in the world right now. We're just going to take the land.
We're just going to take the land.
Push the owner out.
And we see the ego does this. The ego is like, when it gets fired up and spinning in a trauma, it will go to that level of furthering you from your higher self. Because the ego loves having power and control over you. So every single trauma, the ego now has to create a false identity called a trauma self to replace your higher self who fled from the scene. So that pain that is now manifesting in your left hip because that void space is being controlled by a trauma self from the command center in your brain, that trauma self never visits the land. It never ventures down to your left hip. It controls the left hip from up here. So later in life, when pain or symptoms begin to manifest, ego is in full protection mode. No, no, no. We're going to do everything we can to try to prevent you from feeling that pain. So it tries to find a solution, except those solutions aren't really real solutions. They're coping mechanisms.
Well, the solutions are usually nothing more than we see it in the modern medical system today. Again, trigger warning if you're involved in the pharmaceutical business. Pharmaceutical drugs, and that's what they are, they're drugs. Don't let anybody fool you and tell you that they're medicine. Medicine is plant.
Absolutely.
But plants are now called drugs, and we now led to believe that drugs are now called medicine. If it's manufactured in a lab, it's not a medicine, it's a drug. So we go down the pathway of taking drugs to just mimic or cover the pain so we don't have to deal with it. So if we get hurt, what do they tell us? Take an anti-inflammatory.
Yep.
Or a painkiller.
Because don't trust your body. Your body can't heal that on its own. Here, you need a solution. So the ego is really good at finding solutions, but the solutions don't really work. Coping mechanisms, defense systems, addictions, ways to check out, to escape, to numb, whether it's pharmaceutical, drugs, porn, alcohol, cigarettes, social media, gambling, retail therapy, reality TV show, or even plant medicine. The ego has turned to plant medicine as a form of escapism, a brief mental vacation.
And that's really all you're receiving, folks. If you really stop and think about it, like we're adamant about this. And again, we're not saying that we're absolutely right about everything we speak about. We're the first one. Come prove me wrong. I'm happy to be proven wrong. But if you're not the first doctor to write a book about how trauma is stored in the body. There are several great books out there written by great doctors. One of my favorites is Body Keeps the Score. It talks about how exactly what you talk about, when the trauma occurs in the mind, the story, the body stores it. We just got to figure out where. So when we go into those addictions, how they turn into addictions? Easy. We're craving dopamine. So it's a dopamine hit. Dopamine. So before we know it, we're addicted because our tolerance level for dopamine has dropped so low.
And what does dopamine really give us? It's a false sense of feeling. It's a false sense of being embodied. It's a false high. And are you telling me that plant medicine can't also create a false high?
Well, that depends on where you're doing it from, because let's be honest. Again, it is what we've observed in the plant medicine world. Everybody that we have witnessed ourselves, and I'm not saying everybody in the world because I haven't seen everybody in the world, but in our experience, everybody, when served plant medicine, journeys from the mind. And the people who are doing the serving, bless their heart, are not guiding anybody into the body where the trauma is being stored. So when we say that we're doing plant medicine to heal, okay, let's put that aside. I'm doing plant medicine to heal.
But wait, don't you have to feel it to heal it?
Where's my trauma stored again?
In my body.
So if I'm not going into the body, can you tell me how I'm healing again?
Where does feeling occur? In the body. And I want to come back, and this is a controversial topic we can go down, where you said we're watching people serve medicine and people are journeying from the mind.
Are they even journeying from the mind?
Are they really journeying from the mind?
Well, that's what the mind is processing it from the mind.
Well, externally, it appears that they're journeying from the mind because they're laying down and waiting for the medicine to show them beautiful fractals and visions and have awarenesses machine elves and light bulb moments and cosmic insights, which is all great and wonderful. But are you healing anything?
Not a thing.
Are you feeling anything?
At least not for me.
So let's look at this whole. So we know what journeying with medicine into the body is. You got to be guided into your body. If you have not made the journey from your head into your body, yet you think that you are embodied, remember, you're thinking you're embodied.
Well, there's this pretty smart man who said something quite a few years ago that says the longest journey a man will make, or woman, is from here to here.
Yeah.
That person's name was Buddha.
Uh-huh.
So it is a long journey to get there.
Absolutely. And I actually wrote about that in my book, because what this phrase or Buddha did not tell you is you don't just go from your head to your heart. You have to go from your head all the way down to the foundation of your body, your pelvic floor, your womb if you're a woman, your hara if you're a man, because that is the home of your inner shaman, your inner healer, your vital life force energy, the power that made your body, which is the same power that heals your body. So if plant medicine is healing, but you're not dropping all the way down into your womb or hara to awaken your vital life force energy, which is your inner healer or shaman, because it's the power that made the body, it's the power that heals the body, then how are we really experiencing healing?
And if we are being given this medicine by people who haven't gone down that pathway, because what is the definition of a shaman, my love?
One who knows how to navigate the feminine dimensions.
What is the feminine?
Consciousness.
What is the feminine dimension of consciousness?
In the human being, the feminine dimension of consciousness is the body. The masculine dimension of consciousness is the mind. So if we were to look at this, okay, so this descent, this long journey from the head down to the womb or hara to awaken your life force, I can speak about my own journey, and this is another ego bubble that we're going to pop, so a little trigger disclaimer here. People claim that these plant medicines open their heart. They can feel unconditional love.
Well, you and I have drank how much cacao? We live in a country where cacao is almost free. We get pure cacao, and we can drink cacao until the cows come home.
Absolutely.
And I'll be the first one to admit, I've never felt my heart open any bigger than it normally does. So where am I going? But how am I going to open my heart if my heart has been restricted, locked up, broken, armored? How am I going to open it up?
How does your heart just magically open with one plant medicine ceremony when all that armor is literally armoring it, which requires, and this is where I'm sharing from my experience, my journey into my body. I had to drop all the way down and then literally pump and channel my life force back up into my heart to truly start opening my heart. It was a somatic, embodied opening. It wasn't a let me take a pill, whatever, sassafras canna or psilocybin or ayahuasca, and magically my heart's just fully open and I can unconditionally love. Because if I never look at all the ways I conditionally love myself, how can I just make that jump?
Yeah, but even, so let's just stop there for a second. I don't want you to lose that. Even the term unconditional love, we say, oh, well, I just feel unconditional love. And one of the questions when I was a coach for several years, I used to, because it was relationship coaching, I used to ask people that question all the time. Do you unconditionally love you? Do you love when you look in the mirror, not in a narcissistic way? Do you look in the mirror and see this kind, gentle, loving person with all its wrinkles and lack of hair and whatever and skin hanging and not tall enough or not strong, whatever the story? Can you look at that, looking back at you and go, I absolutely unconditionally love you? Because if you don't love you unconditionally, how can we pretend to love unconditionally anything exterior of us?
So now let me give you a little analogy. So let's say that we go to an ayahuasca ceremony, shaman serves you ayahuasca, you lay down, and all the shaman does is play some music, and there's 30 other people there. So the first time that this dark, scary vision where, let's say, one of your visions that you had at one point, you went deep into this dark place and all these creatures were eating you.
It was literally taking an elevator down into darkness, and the darker I get, I can see these creatures coming out the wall. And then I found myself in a cart being drawn, and I realized there's nothing but dead bodies around me, and these creatures were all on the side just trying to pull off these bodies to devour them. That is the darkness and where I went in my first journey.
And when you went there, if you have no guidance,
None.
what, I mean, granted, you went there and you journeyed through it. You're like, oh, this is interesting. Let me look around here. Like, what is this? But what will most people do? Because in all of my integration ceremonies that I've offered for people who've sat with ayahuasca or yahe, they can't interpret their visions, nor when the darkness shows up, I'm going to close that door and I'm going to run away. I don't want to see it. Oh my God, because I don't have that one-on-one guidance to drop deeper into it. What does that vision mean?
Well, I was given guidance. The guidance I was given is when you meet dark places, just be in gratitude. And feel gratitude.
Coming back to this concept of unconditional love, which is a frequency, and I know I've mentioned it before in past lives, on the scale of consciousness, if within the fascia of your body you have stuck energies that are vibrating at a frequency of shame, guilt, anger, rage, frustration, how can you just magically go from a consciousness level of shame to magically feeling gratitude or unconditional love? It's a frequency. We can't fake a frequency.
And you can't just switch one on and switch one off as it goes.
The frequency of shame, guilt, fear was stored in my body. And this was one of my frustrations that literally propelled me along this journey of, I want to figure this out because I'm not finding any guidance externally. Nobody had answers. It was just give thanks, just feel gratitude. My question was, but how, when I have these stuck frequencies of shame and guilt and fear in my body, how do I make the jump out of my lower self, my lower state of consciousness into a higher frequency? Where's the button? Can you tell me? Just give thanks. I'm looking for the how.
So I'm laughing because anybody who served me medicine knows that it's going to be an interesting journey.
Which I was.
But we were in the Amazon last year doing, was it last year or the year before? Or the year before. It's 2025.
Oh, yeah, 2 years ago.
So we were in the Amazon, the private ceremony, and our brother, the shaman, said, just give that gratitude. And I asked him, because it was just us three having a conversation. I said, so brother, stop. Can you tell me what that feels like? This concept of gratitude. What does that feel like? Because you're telling me to feel gratitude, but I was traumatized as a child growing up. So there is a lot of things that I don't know what that feels like the condition of love. I didn't learn that until I became an adult. I never had it as a child that I can express it. Mm-hmm. So when somebody tells me to feel gratitude, I need directions and I need, what am I feeling? So I can go, oh, this must be gratitude. So if I've never known gratitude, how do I just feel gratitude?
Again, that jump. Where's the button to just magically shut off all the shame without healing it? Shut off all the guilt without healing it, and just jump to gratitude.
But gratitude from where? I should be able to feel it in my body, right? And again, here's my argument. Where do I feel love? Is love a mental thing or is it a physical thing?
Well, in today's society, love has become a very mental thing. I love ice cream. I love my dog. I love weather.
But true love, when you fall in love, when you're being held by a parent or by a loved one, or you fall in love, or you hold your baby in your arm, where do you feel that?
In your heart.
You feel that in your body. When your heart breaks, where do you feel that? In the mind? Fuck no. You feel it. It feels like something physically is wrong with you. And if you haven't had your heart broken that way, you don't know what that feels like. It feels like your body is dying. People have died from heartbreak.
My father did.
So this is the reality of when we feel gratitude. Tell me what that's supposed to feel like if I don't know what that feels like.
But it comes back to, do you know what that feels like to be able
to guide me to
guide you to feel it? And that was, I watched the spiral and the circle, and this conversation was getting nowhere. And I'm giggling and I'm like, okay, babe, like, just walk away, just walk away.
I don't walk away. Because I'm like a bulldog. I want an answer. If you're going to tell me something, I want an answer.
Absolutely. And this is what we see, what we've observed, what we've experienced. There's a lot of people out there who experience one or two plant medicine ceremonies, and immediately they want to rush out and be in service to the world and heal the world and serve plant medicine, and think that they are literally doing service, being in service, without ever going in and healing themselves.
And I'm not saying that everybody has to be completely healed to be in service with medicine. And when you say service in medicine, and again, even with us, we were told that we should be serving these medicines. We didn't choose to serve these medicines. When we were doing the medicines, our brother said to us,
our healing.
This medicine is your medicine. You need to, no, I'm not interested. I don't want to save nobody. I don't want to do that. But in doing the medicine for myself and guiding myself to my own healing, I'm like, interesting. So, all right, if somebody shows up, I know that I can take them to at least where I have gone.
Exactly. And he initiated you in, okay, if you ever choose to serve, at least you've been initiated with the medicine. And when I developed womb kriyas, 2 years, I was practicing womb kriyas 2 years by myself without ever telling anyone about womb kriyas. I did not have a desire to rush out there and let me go share womb kriyas with the world. And trust me, those 2 years of developing womb kriyas, wow, I was amazed at the power of them, because every time I danced with my resistance bands, it was like an ayahuasca level journey.
But let's be honest, we both, when we birthed these healing techniques, this stuff, and again, we don't heal anybody. We're nobody shamans. We're nobody gurus. Let's make that clear.
We help you remember how to be your own healer.
We're sharing what has taken us years. The book is what we were looking for. Had we found this book when we were on our early stages of our journey,
we'd be years ahead.
And we have both had our individual journeys before even meeting each other.
Yeah.
I've been doing it for most of my life because this is the environment I grew up in. But even so, we look at where we were without the book, and we look at what we did in unraveling ourselves. It took us years of unraveling ourselves. And why did we decide to come out of the darkness to share it with people? Right?
Well, for me, at least, I can say that I knew the rock bottom that I had hit. I knew that I had looked externally for so many different pieces of guidance or nuggets of the puzzle to just assist me along my path, because I've always been a seeker. Just like you've always been on this healing journey, so have I. From the time I was little, I've been questioning truth, questioning this concept of this fake God in the sky. So I've known from the time I was 5 that I'm here to find truth. And at least for me, we came out of the darkness to share this sacred medicine with the world, because I'm like, if I was struggling and I was looking and I didn't find anything, I would have loved to have found this book. It was the book I spent my entire life looking for.
It took us 3 years to write it.
And in writing it, it was my medicine. It was my healing. It is still my self-healing manual. I will still go in and open it up and, wow, I wrote that?
Yeah.
What daily practice did that knowledge and wisdom come out of? I can't believe I forgot about that.
And every once in a while, when we question ourselves, and we do quite a bit, and that's healthy to do, we have to remind ourselves when we wrote that book, because that is all of our knowledge that we had acquired at that time, guided to put it in the book. The date was released in 3 days. It sold 1,700 copies. And it still ranks, and it was since February. So we're almost a year. It's 11 months. It's still ranked, the last time we checked, in Amazon's top 50 books on alternative healing, shamanism, and plant medicine.
Absolutely. And don't take our word. It may not be there.
It might be, again,
because it
it's a moving
fluctuates
thing.
And it changes.
But the reality of it is that we shared whatever we wanted. And what we do today is not based on money. We could care less.
And to be honest, I had no idea the effect that this book would elicit in people. The messages I receive, I just read a message to you the other day. A sacred sister tagged me on LinkedIn sharing this book, that this has changed my life. It's profound. And it's just like, there, my book is fulfilling its purpose. I wrote it for myself, for us. It was literally birthed from one ayahuasca ceremony. And then three and a half years of integrating that ayahuasca ceremony. How? Not just mentally, not psychedelic integration, talk therapy. No. Integrating with the daily practice, going into our bodies. Literally, as I call it, your body is a temple. There is a holy grail inside of your body. It's the holy grail. It's the eternal search. It's what everyone's looking for. It's the key to immortality. That holy grail exists within you. It's not something external. All of these stories and mythologies have us looking externally.
Well, and again, we're seeing it. We see it in the plant medicine world. Again, trigger warning, our observation. From what we have observed, the plant medicine world has become completely commercialized.
That is a whole nother conversation, because we could go down a deep tangent there with that one.
And we got inside information about all the people that are involved in this. So that's a whole different conversation. So we'll stay on topic.
So coming back to the ego. So if we look, what is the sole purpose of plant medicine?
Supposedly to rebirth yourself and to help yourself remember how to heal.
And what does plant medicine do in order to help you rebirth yourself and help you to heal?
Well, my plant medicine experiences puts my body and my mind in union.
Right? And it does so by revealing you to you. Plant medicine for me is the greatest mirror. If you want to see you, if you want to feel you, if you want to hear you, the you that you've identified with, plant medicine. And that's why cannabis, she's the greatest mirror. All she does is reflects you to you.
If you're an addict, she'll show you that. If you're anxiety, she'll show you that.
So hang on there. So if we go down that pathway, if we as society were disembodied, we disassociate, meaning we check out because we're afraid of our body, somatophobia. We check out because we don't know what to do once we are in our body, because again, no rites of passages, just like with sexuality, with these sacred medicines, with our body, there's no rites of passages. Did anyone come along and say, hey, when you are embodied and you feel these emotions, this is what you do with these emotions. This is how you manage them. This is how you express them. This is how you transmute them. I know I didn't receive that. My mother was emotionally immature.
But even today, we can see, even in the spiritual world, in the healing world, there's a lot of information. Lot of information, tons and tons about the Gnostic and the Hermetics and the. But where are the practices? How do I go?
Information fills the head. And we know quite a few friends who they've spent their entire life just studying information. Their head is just like full of information. But have they experienced any of the information? Have they felt any of the information? Because if I look back on my life and all of the information I studied to become a chiropractor, it was information to fill my head. Do I use any of that today?
No.
Not at all.
I'm a technologist. Ask me how much of it I use in my entire career.
It was just information. The knowledge and wisdom that I unraveled from my body that I shared in this book, it would amaze me. I'm always like turning to him going, babe, I spent $200,000 on a chiropractic student loan to go through school. And here it is, my body had more amazing, more incredible knowledge and wisdom hiding out under all the traumas and wounds and fear and suppressed emotions and programs and false belief systems. I just had to access it. I did not need to go get a degree and spend $200,000
Look, but
information.
You were adjusting me the other day, and I'm like, that's a different adjustment.
Where'd you learn that?
Where'd you learn that? And you're like, your body just showed me how to do it. And I'm like, okay.
Exactly. So your body, literally, we have an analogy of the pauper in the book. You're sitting on a pot of gold. Literally, everything you're looking for is in your body. So when we look at where are we journeying from, mind, body, or ego? So if we look at plant medicine, it's a great mirror. It reveals and reflects us to us. If we approach plant medicine embodied, then I'm saying that we'll probably journey from the body, correct? Because we're embodied.
Yeah.
But if we approach the plant medicine from a disembodied place, where are we journeying from?
A disembodied place. But think about it. We've been to enough plant medicine ceremonies, we've seen where do people journey from? They put you on a table or on a bed somewhere or on a
Lay
blanket
down.
somewhere and just lay down and be quiet and just be in your mind.
Surrender to the medicine. And this is where I come back. Are we journeying from the mind or the ego? Because I can say for me, and you can speak for you, I didn't meet my mind, the true divine full power of my mind, until I dropped my mind into my body to awaken my life force. It wasn't until my body and my mind united that I was like, oh, hello there, mind. I've been misidentifying my ego as my mind.
Well, and again, going back to Sanatana Dharma, the people who were legally allowed and spiritually allowed to imbibe cannabis was the yogis, the sadhus, the rishis, who were journeying from where? From here to here. This is why they used yogic practices. This is why they tied the breath. This is why they disciplined the mind. This is why they discipline. You see the monks doing it even today. It's a self-discipline, self-mastery with the help of
Cannabis.
plant medicine.
And all the other plant medicine. So no matter what plant medicine you journey with, just ask yourself, when you have journeyed with that plant medicine, if you were in a plant medicine ceremony, did the shaman or medicine person guide you into your body or even into your mind? Or were you journeying from your ego, which is the trauma self? And a lot of those dark visions come from
The trauma self.
the trauma self. Your trauma self is showing you the visions which the medicine communicates to you in a feminine way, which requires interpretation and logic, or interpretation not from logic, but interpretation through symbolism and codes. And okay, what does this visual mean? Let me translate it. And if you're journeying from ego, trauma self, because you're approaching the plant medicine from your trauma self, you've never met your higher self. You don't even know what your higher self feels like, because to meet your higher self, you have to be embodied. Higher self is embodied. Those void spaces created by trauma have restored connection with your higher self. And in the shamanic world, that is the soul essence of a soul retrieval. You are retrieving your soul from trauma.
But if you're not guided there, how are you going to retrieve it?
How are you going to retrieve it? Number one. And number two, the soul retrieval has to occur through the mind and the body, through the pain, the void space that got created in the body, and retrieved as you toss out the story that you no longer need that was associated with the trauma.
And you don't have to believe this. If you go and look even in Chinese medicine, you will see that there is a body map where, depending on what organ that is bothering you, Chinese medicine will tie it to an emotion, because that emotion is attached to whatever organ. So emotion, body, physically in.
Energy and motion, or stuck energy, because it's not moving. It's an emotion that is stuck. It got stuck in place.
Physically feel in the body.
Exactly. So if you're not being guided into your body, if you're not being guided of how to master your divine mind and to use your mind to create the blood vessel wall, the container within which your blood, your life force energy, your Shakti, your inner healer, to flow, because the container provides direction for your life force to flow with purpose. If the sole purpose of your life force, your inner healer, shaman, Shakti, whatever you want to call your life force, the sole purpose is to heal you, don't you think that life force has to have a container to flow through with direction and purpose to fulfill its purpose?
Absolutely.
So there is this beautiful magic, and that is what we've given birth to: body-mind synchronization, the self-healing methodology of uniting the body and the mind by dropping your mind into your body and journeying from there with plant medicine, which is a totally different journey.
Absolutely.
Than journeying from the ego or your trauma self or your already disembodied state. And I'll share this. I had received some feedback from a sister a while back who, she knows she's disembodied. She knows she disassociates from trauma. She's fully admitted it to me. And she goes to this Yahe ceremony and there's no guidance whatsoever. And she's sharing this with me like, fuck, during the ceremony, I got so triggered and upset because there's no guidance. The shaman just walks away and disappears from the group. I'm seeing all these deep, dark visions. And then I just want to escape. I want to get out of there. So I fly away.
Fly away.
Fly away. So if you're starting needing medicine from here, your head, ego, trauma self, because you're not embodied, this is where that term comes from. Take medicine and just fly away because that descent into your body is so scary. Coming back to somatophobia. And sure enough, for literally 2 to 3 weeks post-ceremony, she was in a neck brace.
It was a physical thing.
Because her body was screaming at her to, can you come and be embodied? And she was like, there was no guidance, there was nothing. Oh, here, well, you just need to put on a neck brace. And that created a lot of confusion and was actually traumatizing.
Absolutely.
Because there was no guidance. And we see this so often in all different worlds and all different communities.
Well, again, if you turn on YouTube and you start searching for spiritual information or any kind of information for enlightenment, there's a lot of words. But where's the guidance? Show me what can I do? Where can I go? How can it's wonderful to read and fill my mind with all this information. Speaking of reading, folks, we decided this year, 2025, we are going to do 2 book readings now a month, and the book readings are always free. The book readings, for those of you who've never attended, it is a 2-hour journey into the body. So we guide people into the body so you can feel what it is that we're talking about. We read from the book, and musical instruments is usually played, high frequency musical instrument to carry the frequency of our voice so that you can hear it as you're guided into the body. So that's
it is the sacred cannabis rite of passage that you never received. If you only know cannabis from a recreational or medicinal standpoint, but never a sacred ceremonial standpoint, this is an invitation for you to meet the higher self of cannabis. So we have 2 this month. The first one is Sunday, January 12th from 1 to 3 p.m. Eastern.
Why we're doing it on a Sunday and why we're doing 2 this month.
For the European folks.
We have a lot of people who are reaching out from Europe, and they're like, we would love to join you guys, but you guys are like 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's like 2 o'clock in the morning for me. We can't really do it.
So then the second one for January is Friday, January 31st from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern.
And again, both are free. You can join both whenever you want. So.
And then another quick little reminder, if you desire to meet journeying with cannabis into your body, this Saturday, I have a womb kriya ceremony for women from 10 to 11:30 a.m. Eastern. Your first ceremony is free.
And
all you need is cannabis and a resistance band.
And you have another one on Sunday.
Sunday, a Hara Kriya ceremony for men, same time, 10 to 11:30 a.m. Eastern, and your first ceremony is free. Why do we offer free ceremonies? Because you have to feel it to experience it.
We can say until we're blue in the face, you have to feel it to heal it. So how do you feel it? We've been disembodied for so long. Again, like we always talk about in our book reading, the human mind processes 70,000 thoughts a day.
How many was that a minute the other day? 2,900?
2,900 thoughts a minute. So how are you consciously embodied when it's just like, zzz, this is the monkey mind that we exist. And when you take medicine from that space without being guided to the monkey mind, guess what's going to happen? It's going to go
away. Absolutely. So thank you all for joining us today. Dose of higher wisdom. If you have any, you know how to find us. Comment on the video.
And we will put out an invitation if there's something that you wish for us to discuss.
Theme suggestions, topics, questions.
If not, we'll continue discussing the book and what we have acquired and the knowledge that we continue to acquire. So if you want something to discuss, feel free to reach out to us and we will entertain it.
Well, the theme for the book readings this month is the mother wound.
That one's huge.
It's huge. So if you have any questions, wounds, if any of you desire to come on live with us and experience the unraveling and the questioning and the accountability, let us know. If not, send us your questions. Send us your topics. We look forward to seeing you next week, same time, same place. And if you feel called to join one of our free ceremonies,
feel free to do so, folks. They're always free.
The links are below. So thank you so much for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you soon.
Thanks,
Have a beautiful day.
Thank you
Bye-bye.
very much for showing up.